Why did the Arab Caliphate collapse in one day? On the morning of January 25, 750, the Umayyad Caliphate troops gathered at the Great Zab River in modern-day Iraq. Confidence in victory was high. The seasoned Umayyad cavalry was preparing to crush the numerically inferior Abbasid army. At first glance, the battle should have ended in a quick victory for the Umayyads. But everything did not go according to plan. The Abbasids turned out to be much more organized and tenacious than expected. The Umayyad troops, having lost faith in their commanders after recent defeats, were unable to put up much resistance. By the end of the day, the fate of the caliphate was sealed. The rise and fall of one of the greatest empires. In the 100 years of their existence, the Umayyads created one of the largest states in history. At their height, their territory exceeded 11 million square kilometers, covering vast regions of Africa, Asia, and Europe, including Spain. They ruled over some 30 million people, a third of the world's population. However, by the 8th century, their power was shaken. A bloody defeat at the hands of the Abbasids marked the end of the dynasty's century-long rule. Most of the Umayyad princes were killed, and power passed to the Abbasids, who began a new era in the history of the Islamic world. Despite their tragic end, the Umayyads left a significant legacy. Their reign was an era of flourishing art, science, architecture, and political reform. However, it was the multinational composition of their empire that became one of the causes of internal conflict. The territories of the Caliphate were inhabited not only by Arabs, but also by representatives of other peoples, Christians, Jews, and non-Arab Muslims. From the very beginning, the Umayyad power was criticized. The first Caliph Muawiyah was not a descendant of Muhammad, which raised doubts about the legitimacy of his rule. In addition, the dynasty introduced a hereditary monarchy, which contradicted the original principles of Islam. The centralization of power in Damascus also increased tensions between different ethnic and social groups. Muawiyah, the founder of the dynasty, relied on the power of the Syrian army for conquests. Under his rule, the caliphate expanded, covering North Africa, Central Asia, and Europe. He created a centralized system of government, including a network of police and governors subordinate to Damascus. These reforms allowed the Umayyads to reach the peak of their power under Caliph al-Walid I. However, despite external successes, discontent was growing within the empire. The privileges of Arab Muslims, especially Syrians, caused protests among the non-Arab population. On this wave, the Abbasids began to gather supporters, promising equality and justice. In 747, the Abbasids revolted, starting in Persia, where they were joined by many opponents of the Umayyads. In 749, they captured Mesopotamia, dealing a decisive blow to the depleted Umayyad army. The culmination was the Battle of the Great Zab in 750, in which the Abbasids achieved a final victory. Most of the Umayyad leaders were killed, and power passed to the Abbasids. The first caliph of the new dynasty was Abu al-Abbas al-Safa, who founded the Abbasid Caliphate, which lasted for almost 500 years. Thus ended the history of the great Umayyad Caliphate, whose legacy continues to influence the Islamic world.